Hello, guys. We're back, and it is so on. We're the No Name Cinema Society, and it's time for our classic feature discussion. Our classic movie screening, our most popular of all our shows. And tonight, we're going back to 1994 to talk about Forrest Gump. Before we do anything, I'm going to go over the full evening schedule with you guys for the night, and it looks a little like this. We started the night by talking about The Girl on the Train. And all that's on Facebook right now. And then we just did the Indie Spotlight, which is Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. And right now, as you can see, is our Forrest Gump discussion. And then we got our sound off, our freeform segment coming up, in which Davey's going to have a diatribe. I'm going to have my top 5 murder mystery movies. I'm also going to have a second run movie, which is when we talk about a movie that came up and one of us hadn't seen it, and then we bring it up and say we finally see it, and then we rediscuss with some new information. So let me introduce my co-host for this Forrest Gump discussion. And first, our very own Forrest is Drunk Davey over here. How you doing, Forrest?
Doing well.
And Lieutenant Dan, J Money, welcome.
Good. I was waiting for you to say Lieutenant Dan. I figured that was what was going to happen. Yes, I will totally accept that.
I thought you might. Anyway, I had the wrong picture ready because I keep forgetting about my trivia tidbits. Everybody likes my trivia tidbits, apparently.
Yep. Give us your tidbits.
Yeah. Do you want my tidbits?
Yeah, I'm down at first, JB.
Anyway, tidbits of this. This is both on Facebook and the broadcast. The clue is this. A film whose performance was the last one to give an actor back-to-back Oscar wins. And, of course, Tom Hanks won Best Actor for this movie, Forrest Gump, in 1994. He also won Best Actor in 1993 for, anybody know?
No.
Yeah.
No? Yeah?
Yeah. Finish?
Was it? Was it Philadelphia Story?
Philadelphia.
Or Philadelphia? Yeah.
Philadelphia Story was a movie that we reviewed in episode 16.3.
It all blends. They're both about the same thing, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
So, Tom Hanks is the 5th person and most recent to win back-to-back Oscars as an actor. Does anybody know who the other 4 are?
No.
Great, because that's what I'm here. Do you know? Do you have any guesses, J Money?
Well, there was a guy that won this past year.
As an actor.
Oh, actor. Cary Grant.
Cary Grant never won any Oscars, let alone 2. So, I'll just tell you. What's that?
I'm already out of this game. Also, I can't think of a reason to dismiss the Oscars. Cary Grant.
Well, maybe. So anyway, the first was Louise Rayner, who won for The Good Earth and The Great Ziegfeld back-to-back. The next to do it was shortly thereafter, also in the 30s, Spencer Tracy won for Captain's Courageous in 1937, and then in 1938 won for Boys Town. And then, ironically enough, Katharine Hepburn would win back-to-back Oscars, Spencer Tracy's better half, more or less. Her first, she won 4 total, but she went back-to-back in 67 and 68. 67 for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and 68 for a movie we reviewed in episode 27.3.
Lion of Winter.
There it is, Dave. Thank you for playing, Dave. Davey's in this. Lion of Winter, which of course was a tie, but she still won. And Jason Robards in 1976 and 1977. In 1976, he won Best Supporting Actor for All the President's Men, and Best Supporting Actor in 1977 for Julia. And that's your trivia tidbit for the evening. You guys excited? Was that fun?
I mean, now I'm excited.
Yeah. Now you're excited. See? Yeah. Trivia tidbits get people into this. Let's do a summary. Shall we?
There we go.
How's that picture look, guys? It looks cut off to me. Is it cut off to you?
Cut off in what sense? Well, JB, all the images you sent me were incredibly wide. They don't necessarily fit to the...
Oh, is that right? Anyway, so this movie is the life and times of Forrest Gump. He learned as a young man that he wasn't the brightest kid, but what he lacked in brains, he made up for in heart and effort. Forrest is sweet, but somewhat aimless and impressionable. The combination of these qualities sets him on a journey that sees him pass through a series of important moments in American history, sometimes having an unintentional impact on the course of events that would change several generations. And so it's time for their opening thoughts, and I'm not going to lie and say that I'm kind of afraid. So let's just get the hardest part over with and go to J Money first.
It's fine. Everybody loves this movie. It's fine.
I don't know if everybody loves it. It receives a lot of backlash, but Davy Joe?
No, I've always liked it. I've always liked it. So yeah, there you go. Opening thought. Always liked it.
Okay. Well, I mean, the screening that I had, which was in, I don't remember, I think March or April. It was a pretty split group, like right down the middle. But even the haters, like, almost reluctantly acknowledged the quality of the filmmaking, and I would argue they almost couldn't justify their hatred. The people that liked the movie really liked it, and I'm in that latter group. In fact, I'm gonna hurt your guys' feelings and say it's like top 50 all time for me. So I'm on the side of the fans.
I mean, top 50 is a pretty broad spectrum.
What's that?
I feel like top 50 is a pretty broad spectrum.
Top 50? Yeah. Is it that broad out of all the movies in history? Top 50 is broad?
No.
Yeah, I feel like that's okay enough. I feel like that I can accept that from you.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, like, that's like top 10 of the 90s.
Top 10 of the 90s. Okay.
I mean, I think that I'm going to say that is wrong. So let's get into the why. I mean, and I think the biggest reason why Forrest Gump works, for all his flaws, I mean, like, I think Forrest Gump proves what a quality director Robert Zemeckis is. So that'll be my first statement, and let's see you guys say about that, and then I can back it up. I think it's the direction that makes this movie special. Gentlemen?
Like special ed?
Did you say like special ed?
Yeah. I mean, what was so special about this movie? I don't feel like there's anything special about this movie, and I guess that's why, for me, it comes in the very middle of the road area. Like, what would...
Well, I would say, I mean, like, I think that the precision... I mean, like, I think every shot is so precise and in keeping with the overall tone and narrative. I mean, like, I think it's something of a picaresque journey, but there's been lots of those in history. Huckleberry Finn, Tom Jones. I mean, I think that this is sort of that ilk. And I think that it covers a lot of ground in a short period of time, and I think the editing is a big part of it too. It's because it's really like a series of sequences. The other thing why I think it's really special from a directing point of view is the balance of comedy and drama. I mean, I think that is crucial because it's at times hilarious and at times heartbreaking. I mean, like, it's one of the the old joke, you laugh, you cry. This is it hits all those beats. Always watchable, never boring. And the other thing that the emotional engagement we talk about all the time, I think, is the big litmus test. And let's not forget about the performances. I mean, like, the consistency of the quality of the performances, I think, are huge as well. So in terms of direction, those are the things that I think about. I mean, look at this one image that I gave you guys. The head tilt is such a small detail, but I think it's huge. And of course, the guy right here, the kid, is actually a very young Haley Joel Osment. But I think it is it's those small details of direction that I appreciate. You know what I mean? Because this is not something a Haley Joel Osment comes up with on his own. This is something, and I don't think it's something that's scripted either. It's something that Zemeckis sees through the lens of, like, oh, what happens if you tilt your head a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, and we make these connection between generations. I think it's beautiful. So anyway, Davey, you've been nodding, so say something.
That's a good observation there. He wouldn't have done that on his own. But
But I mean, the movie. I mean, that's just one example. The movie's chock full of details and that just are all in line with each other. I look at this movie and I feel precision. That's the movie. That's the word that comes to mind more than anything.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at this picture, it manages to pull off the one thing that it's a biopic that doesn't annoy people. I mean, and it's a long stretch. I mean,
but it's also fictional. Obviously, you know that it's a fictional story,
sure.
right?
Yeah, no, of course I know that. But I mean, if you take a story of him from childhood all the way up through adulthood like that, you know, it's just like, you know, the Roberto Duran thing. You know, we said it was unfocused, but you're right. I mean, in order for a movie to be this good and cover that much period of time, it needs to be directed very, very well. I mean,
It never feels unfocused. I mean, like it has sequences like a good novel, but it never feels lost. It always feels like it's forward. And you never know what's going to happen next because it could go anywhere, you know, to some degree.
Well, and the whole thing is just furthering his relationships with the Jenny and Lieutenant Dan. They're never far away. You know, even when they're not there, he's at least with Jenny, he's thinking about her, he's talking about her. So it's all for a purpose. I mean, it's definitely covers a lot, but it is focused at the same time.
And they sort of represent different aspects of the human experience and not only like what they mean to him, but you know, like what that different parts of us almost. But anyway, David Joe, were you done or do you have more?
I'm done. That was good.
I mean, like I have to say, J Money, I'm almost relieved by you saying it's fine because I thought you were ready to come out guns blazing.
No, you know, JB, it's like on the surface of everything you just said, I agree with you. I mean, it is a very competently put together movie, and you can certainly argue for a lot of the detailed things that you just talked about, and you can talk about the editing, and you can talk about the fact that it captures your attention. You know, I guess I don't really know what the backlash is, honestly. I don't think I've really necessarily heard a lot of negative things about this, but
well, I mean, I think a lot of the backlash, and this is I don't want to open this can of worms, but a lot of the backlash comes from it beating Pulp Fiction for the Best Picture Oscar.
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. But
well, I would have voted for Forrest Gump.
I'm sure you would have, but that's fine. I just feel like
well, I mean, I like Pulp Fiction, but the difference is emotional engagement because Pulp Fiction is ultimately an exercise in nothing. But I mean, it's a great movie.
Let me say this. I think that people's response to this movie probably has to do with how they do feel emotionally engaged to it. Me personally, it didn't do anything for me. I feel like it's really.
But I mean, like we've proven in the past before that you're kind of soulless. It's not a bad thing.
True. But I am entirely soulless, and I do like enjoying, like, I don't know, little babies for dinners and things like that. Whatever. That's not here or there. The point is that I found the movie itself to be, you know, at times fairly schmaltzy, at times a little contrived, at times a little ridiculous, and it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to respond to in a way that's any deeper than the surface of what it is. And I can see how you're saying it's a well put together, crafted element or movie. That's fine. I get that, and I get why people respond to it. You know, for me personally, it's not working. You know, precision can describe a work of art, or it can describe a meal at McDonald's. It doesn't necessarily mean that it alone makes it something worthwhile. It really depends on what the person's looking for.
Okay. I mean, like, I feel like you're taking that word and throwing it different contexts at. I mean, clearly, you know, like, I'm talking about precision in storytelling, and I think that is, it makes a difference.
Well, yeah, except the story itself is not really that interesting. I mean, like you can be precise about the way that you talk about a story and have the story itself not really be satisfying.
I mean, I guess so, but I mean, I obviously I do find it satisfying. Davy Joe, do you have a rebuttal to that, Davy Joe?
No, the precision thing, I not really. I will say that I think some of the backlash is, I think that you could make the argument that it's a tad manipulative at times, just because, I mean, it's so emotional. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, the ending is, did he need to do that? I mean, I don't know. It just seemed a bit heavy-handed, but it evokes such a response in me that I can't really deny that it works.
Did he need to do what?
I mean, did he need to kill Jenny? Did he need to do that?
Kill Jenny?
Spoiler alert.
Right. I mean,
it's a classic, but I mean, you know that he doesn't kill her, right?
No, he doesn't physically kill her. I'm talking about the filmmaker, like the story. They need to kill. Jesus Christ.
That would have been a good movie, guys. He had suddenly killed Jenny at the end, clubbed her to death with a frying pan or something. It would have been awesome.
I'm like, I just watched this last weekend. I'm pretty sure that I remember it happening.
Well, I mean, like in the sense that, I mean, I do think it's important in the overall sort of allegory about, you know, like what it's saying about the American experience. But that's
yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Because it's not just that she dies; it's what she dies from too. That's part of what's somewhat at issue.
And they handled it in a very heavy-handed way, and they handled it in a very symbolic way.
They handled it in a very 90s way, I'd say. I'd say it was very delicately handled, and I think he would have done it much differently if he was older and in a modern sense. So I don't think you can hold that against the film or filmmakers, personally.
Well, it's not like other people weren't addressing the ideas that we're talking about here.
No, but I mean, in a major Paramount picture, I think that like they're being safe, and there's certainly a lot of bonus points when people are not being safe. But I can certainly see why they weren't. I mean, like I remember feeling in 1994. I'm a little older than you guys. I mean, like I was 38 at the time, and I felt. I definitely feel because at that age I was not exposed to a lot of the indie films that were talking about the LGBT community, even though that's not necessarily what her community is. But I was aware of AIDS, but not it was not a big part of what I was dealing with. And of course, Philadelphia took a chance and dealt with it much more directly. But here, and also it might have been too off tone too, like the tonal implications of dealing with that. I mean, you could also argue like you never see like AIDS gets really nasty, and you never see her. You never see that on her. I get that, but I can also see the argument for skipping that part, and because this is a fable of sorts,
Yeah, for me, this is like the celluloid equivalent of like a Norman Rockwell painting, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. I mean, there's a lot of things to say about Norman Rockwell as a painter, as somebody that presents America, right? I mean, I feel like there's plenty of pros to his approach, to the way that he's crafted everything, to his storytelling and narrative that he infuses his work with. You can also talk a lot about how it's, a very expected presentation of something, and how it's pretty easy. It's a pretty soft sell for a lot of stuff, and that really comes down to how you react to the actual content. I don't think you can fault, Rockwell as a painter. I don't think you can fault Zemeckis for this film. And I don't even know if you can really fault the film. It's just, it has a story point, it has a point of view, and either you can kind of like put yourself into it, you have enough willing suspension of disbelief to like go with the flow of the movie, or you don't. I mean, I don't feel like I guess I feel like it really does come down to the personality of the viewer for the most part when we talk about this movie.
Yeah, no, and that's why I think the screening that I had was so split, and I feel like this is almost a replica of that to some degree, because I feel like Jay Money, you represent the haters that kind of acknowledge the qualities of it and just don't feel connected to it. Like they can't say anything worse about it than I just don't feel it. And Davy Joe and I are more like, we do feel it and recognize the quality of it. I mean, like, I don't want to speak too much for Davy Joe. I think I'm a little more effusive than he is, but
no. I mean, I'll tell you, the opening credits of this film, and I'm starting to get, like, I'm feeling it in my chest.
We'll talk about some of my favorite moments shortly, because a lot of it have to do with the other great, and, Zemeckis has gotten great with directing actors, and, like, he really popped after Forrest Gump, because, like, he did some great work after Forrest Gump with working with actors. And we have 3, by the way, Robert Zemeckis films, 2 other ones coming up in the next year anyway as part of our show, so that'll be kind of fun to compare and contrast as we go along. But performances, I mean, like, huge. Obviously, I mean, it was so good that they could not give Tom Hanks a second consecutive Oscar. I still think it's the best performance of his career, and as simple as it seems, I think it's because it's so copied now. But I mean, like, the choices that we know that are Forrest Gump and the voice and the gait and everything, he created that. I mean, he created that from scratch. It's a whole, in 1994, this is a wholly original concept, WHOLLY. And it could have gone horribly sour, I think. Go ahead. All right.
Well, saying that the idea of like the Southern Simpleton was a wholly original concept doesn't really seem.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm not talking about the characterization. I'm talking about the character choices.
Okay.
I mean, like the voice. I mean, the thing that I think is most impressive to me is the body work. Like, I mean, he transforms the way he carries himself in a convincing way that we now know to be Forrest Gump. And the Southern accent, but in spite of the Southern accent, Forrest's tone is all his own. You know what I mean? Like it's completely Forrest. Like we hear that and we know it now to be Forrest. He didn't mimic someone else. He created this because there's the Southern drawl, but there's the way that he puts emphasis on certain syllables and sentences and things that it is extraordinarily unique and these are great actor choices, I think. So I mean, like the Southern Simpleton's what's on the page. What Forrest Gump became is what Tom Hanks brought to the situation. I have another picture up to show a little bit of sense of the body work because that's, I mean, like the way that he carries himself is I think huge in this, and a lot of times we don't talk about it in performances, but the way that an actor uses their body, it's their instrument, I think it's great. I give another example. I don't have a photo of it, but Davy Joe, you were nodding, so you can back me up a little bit.
No, he definitely you definitely lose Tom Hanks altogether at some point in this film, and it's just Forrest. And that's a great picture that illustrates it right there. I mean, it's great. And the only performance that I think was sort of like that would have been Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. Very different, it wasn't mimicking it at all, but it's sort of in the same kind of on the same track.
I don't love that movie, but I agree with you about the performance anyway. But
what about Giovanna Ribisi and the other sister? Huh? Same thing, guys. Same thing.
Ouch. That's yeah. Anyway, there's a scene when he first confesses his love for Jenny, and he asks her to marry him, and he says, "I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is." I mean, that's the moment that gets me every time. But watch his effing elbows in that scene. I like the way, like he says what he says to her, which gets you, and then he goes outside, and he puts his hands on his hips like this, and even his elbows are expressive. I mean, he's using every ounce of his body to convey this character. It's completely, he's inhabiting this. I'm getting a phone call. From someone
you should totally take it. You should totally.
There's someone that knows I'm on the show. Hold on. Let's see. Are you watching the show? Are you calling in to find out what I'm saying, or do you have a comment that you want to make? She completely disagrees with everything I'm saying.
Oh, nice.
Can you put her on speaker?
Yeah, put her on speaker. There we go.
She wants me to stop yelling.
You can never have JB stop yelling.
That's actually pretty good advice.
I wouldn't need me anymore. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I like getting on-air notes. That's interesting.
So yeah,
that happened.
That was God.
Wow.
So gotta keep it down, guys. Anyway, so that is I lost my train of thought. Performances. Yeah. So I mean, like that scene, Davy Joe. That scene is just heartbreaking.
It is, and I don't even want to talk about it. Yeah, you're right.
Jane, I love this, like, just blind agreeing with me from Davy Joe all night. It's been great. Jane Money's not happy. You can't see this about Tom Hanks's performance?
Guys, what is love? I mean, I don't even know. Tell me more about this emotion that you speak of.
He wants to know what love is. He wants you to show him.
No more. What is love?
There we go. I knew it was going to happen. In all seriousness, Tom Hanks is great in this movie, and honestly, I love Tom Hanks as well. I don't have any faults about Tom Hanks. I have nothing bad to say about his performance in this movie either. I think that he is a great actor consistently through and through. You know, and if anything, I would say that that's the reason I would respond to this movie at all, is from his performance. It still is not enough for me to generally say that this is a great movie for me personally, but you know, I can still recognize his performance as being pretty stellar.
Well, that's something. I also think someone who did not get nominated for an Oscar. Hello? Thought I heard a knock at the door. Someone that did not get nominated for an Oscar that that should have won probably. I think Robin Wright is, and I think if she were the Robin, if we knew that she would become more than just a pretty face, I think she might have been nominated. She's never actually been nominated for an Oscar. And the other films that she's done, like Sorry Haters, that like made people think that, oh yeah, she's really good. She's phenomenal in this movie. I mean, like, it's limited screen time, but it's a complete performance, and really like Jenny goes through a tremendous journey. And you know, it's her arc really. You know, Forrest doesn't have the arc that she does. Hold on, there might be somebody at the door. You guys talk about Jenny.
You know what, Davy Joe, Jenny's awesome, but also I would encourage any of our viewers to order room service for JB right now and to continuously send him, I don't know, pizza, maybe a lobster dinner, anything else you feel like would be necessary for JB's experience at the Quality Inn.
No, don't
look at you saying the name.
Jeez.
Oh man.
Find out where JB is and send him.
That was all him. I would never do that.
I know. I know.
Are you really concerned about Quality Inn might sponsor the show if we keep dropping them. Look at how great on the door, man. It's amazing.
I think I mean, the other thing that's important about Jenny is, I mean, everything sort of pivots around her. Like, she is, you know, they talk about, like, you know, if you're a character that when you're off screen that is constantly talked about off screen and you don't live up to that, like, that's a big downer. You know what I mean? But she does, and you know, like, that's credit to her to some degree, and Zemeckis as well, I think. So, Dave, you haven't said much about Jenny.
No, I think that's an interesting. You know, I hadn't thought about it the way that you framed it. It is entirely her arc. Yeah, I mean, it's a performance that you know, you wanna protect her. You wanna, you know, that's how you. I guess that's how people fall in love. You know, you
have to fall in love with her a little bit.
Wow,
yeah.
Look at that, Davy Joe.
Yeah. So I mean, it's completely believable. Yeah. Because
Davy Joe and I are like the romantics in this group.
And it starts with her taking care of him, and then he spends the rest of his life trying to reciprocate that. Mm-hmm. It's something else.
And it's kind of beautiful in its own way, especially after all that she's been through. Do we have anything on Lieutenant Dan? He's a counterpart in this movie.
Obviously, he's the best character in the movie.
He's pretty awesome.
Can't you see J Money in this wheelchair with smoking a cigar like this? Can't you? I can picture that. In fact, don't you own this shirt? I think I've seen this on you.
Guys, I'm telling you, as soon as diabetes takes one of my feet, I'll be in the same situation every day.
That's terrible.
And you're gonna go visit Davy Joe on a shrimping boat somewhere?
That's my plan. That's my plan. Yeah.
Charlotte's shrimping boat.
Oh God.
Davy Joe is like, lawsuits everywhere.
Well, there's no water here. But anyway.
Oh, in Charlotte, yes. No, I know.
It's gonna be a hard ride for that boat.
Anyway, I think that I mean, Gary Sinise is Oscar nominated. I don't love his performance the way I do the other two. I think it's great. I think it's good. It's important. Maybe like there's a moment or two that's slightly over the top, especially like once he's wheelchair bound. But it's not a deal breaker. Like, he certainly doesn't detract from the film. But I'm more interested in when Jenny is on screen, or Forrest, or Bubba. Was it a breakout role for Gary Sinise? Because I don't remember hearing about him before this. Well, I mean, I had known him from Of Mice and Men from 1992, what he did with him and John Malkovich.
Sure.
That was the first time I heard of Gary Sinise. So he was sort of like up and coming.
You know, the funny thing about this movie is he doesn't end up being a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. There are no real villains.
Just the kids in the pickup truck.
Right. Fair enough. And they were on bikes the first time, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I've got a couple ideas about themes of this movie. Do you guys do you guys have themes you want to think about, or should I go with mine and you guys will jump off of that?
Why don't you go with yours?
We'll
see where it goes.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple. I think it, obviously a lot of talks about the national events that it covers. Like over how Forrest sort of weaves his way into history. But I mean, I also think that there is a lack, and I'm seeing this as a good thing now. I mean, I think a theme is America. Jay Money brought up Norman Rockwell earlier. So I think America is the theme. And I think it's really interesting how there's a lack of perspective on those things, like a lack of judgment on any of those things, whether it be, like they just sort of show the things happening and Forrest sort of breezes through them. And I think it's sort of fascinating that he doesn't really like judge, like there's no judgment of any of these incidents, through history, like whether it's the Black Panthers or whatever. They weren't really supporting or denying anything. The film got part of the backlash was the film got accused of being sort of a conservative film, but I kind of disagree with that. I don't think it really takes sides one way or the other, and I thought I enjoy that about it. I wanted to see what you guys had to say about both the theme of being America and it's also how you felt about this lack of perspective one way or the other. It seems like purposefully, I don't want to say safe, but certainly like apolitical, which fits the character.
Yeah, no, Davy Joe.
No, I've heard that also that it's people say that it's an overly conservative film, and I'm someone who I think is sensitive to that, and I don't see it. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't. Like it's interesting. I don't necessarily. I think it's apolitical. I don't think it's necessarily conservative. I think it doesn't want to tackle these more serious issues intentionally, which isn't necessarily to its own fault. It's just the fact that it's here to present them without really leaving a lot of commentary on them. Which
it allows the viewer to sort of make those determinations for themselves,
except that it's giving you a really condensed, sort of abridged version of a lot of different events without actually explaining them. So you can't really make a really informed opinion about it. But that's okay. I think it's better that it left the Gump really to be kind of this transparent character that you're seeing the stuff around him happen without him reacting to it. So it gives you a chance to just kind of relive history without really necessarily having this his perspective forced upon you in any sense. Because at the end of the day, you could sort of argue that his character it's anti-intellectual. I mean, you can sort of argue that the movie itself is trying to not push, but it's celebrating an anti-intellectual approach to history. But it's not offensive in any way.
I mean, I also think there's a choice to sort of focus on the characters. You know what I mean? Like, there's all the events in the background, but I also think that they, like you can argue like his rise to I don't know, call it power, but certainly fortune. I mean, like you can call that an American capitalist, story.
Yeah, although I guess don't you feel it was more serendipity than capitalism?
But I mean, like the fact that he could be a small business owner. I mean, like that was another fuck. And the nature of it. But what successful idea of like the potential for a small business owner to I think is, it is hints at like, like the guy that made a fortune and a guy that made the fortune on the T-shirts, like those sort of things, and anything is possible, America. Staring. Are you not hearing me? Or I'm just getting stared at right now.
Yeah,
so
you're
breaking up quite a lot. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying, okay. I was saying other little thing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Other little things like the bumper sticker who I mean, let's suggest an anything can happen America.
Yeah. Well, that seems serendipitous to me. That's not necessarily. I mean, it's sort of it's embracing the idea of. I mean, in a sense, I guess, manifest destiny, because you're basically saying like America's spirit is to sort of move forward and find profit in sort of unexpected places, and it's your right or your just your destiny as an American to do this. But I don't think there was anything.
This happens to everyone. I mean, like certainly, but I mean, like I do think I do think luck. Any successful person will tell you that luck plays a large role in their success or played.
I disagree with. Not that it's not true, but that they'll say it. I think a lot of people won't say it. But yeah.
All right, so the last one that I think you guys might find a little more interesting. I think this movie is about handicaps. If you,
oh yeah,
if and maybe that ties into the America theme somehow, and like I haven't figured out how exactly, but I mean, if you look at all these characters, whether it's Forrest, Jenny, Bubba, Dan, they all are dealing with some sort of, whether it's a physical or emotional or mental handicap, and how they overcome those things, and maybe that's what. That's how it's America or something, or maybe that's why it's inspiring to people. But I mean, like I think that's a really important element to the story that doesn't get talked about as much. Gentlemen,
does it not get to talk about that much? I mean, because it really is about this series of events of adversity that everybody kind of has to struggle against, right?
I know, but I mean, I'm talking like like they're all like I think it suggests that like we all to some degree are dealing with some sort of various handicaps. No?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but I don't think it's particularly subtle.
I didn't necessarily say subtle. Go ahead.
Well, everybody's either gets sick or has a disability in the movie, which is it's fine, and I think it kind of adds a lot of heart to the film. But I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I think's been necessarily overlooked, I guess. But all
right. Well, I mean, like I was less concerned about talking about how overlooked or not it was. I was more concerned in seeing what you guys thought about that concept.
Yeah. I mean, there were. Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'll bite. It's
right.
about people are overcoming these personal setbacks, and also watching everybody kind of deal with their own version of that. Their own version of a handicap. I mean,
or that die from them.
What's that?
Or overcome them or die from them.
But I mean, again, I don't think she died from the handicap itself. You know what I mean? Like the handicap is what happened to her during her childhood.
Oh wow!
Okay, I see what you mean.
That's a dark way of looking at it, but
that's that. I mean, it's definitely something she carried with her.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, let's move on to the brackets, shall we, gentlemen?
Yes.
J-Money's like, let's get this stuff over. All right, take it away, Davy Joe. It's your ball.
Okay, so the seating criteria varies from bracket to bracket. Films are screened at JV-hosted screenings, and they need to be 15 years or older, meaning from 2001 or later. Voters are eligible if they see both films within a 12-month period. Voters must see both films in JV's presence, and JV is ineligible to vote. Unless the vote counts, he can break ties.
So there you go, and I forgot to do this part first. It's time for the Classic Feature Showdown!
There we go.
Yeah! So then I was supposed to do the rules. So I messed that up. But regardless, I was excited. I was excited about the rules. All right. So let's talk about the brackets this time round. All right. So we're doing the 90s bracket tonight, in which Forrest Gump is a #1 seed. And if it's the first round, David Joe, you're the expert. You're wearing a Syracuse shirt. One seed goes up against what in this first round?
16.
16 seeds. So here's our bracket. Forrest Gump screened in March or April. I can tell you when I screened it. Let me see if I can find it here.
David Joe, is Syracuse playing anything these days?
Well, I mean, they theoretically have a football team, but they don't really play very well.
They don't really play it. But anyway, Forrest Gump was screened in March 26th of this past year, and Edward Scissorhands was screened on June 20th of 2015. So that is within a 12-month period, and we had several people attend both screenings. The Edward Scissorhands screenings I talked about because it's one of our 1990 movies, so we've talked about Edward Scissorhands in the past, and we talked about it in our 1990 in review show, which you can find on YouTube. And so with that said, it's eligible for a vote because those people talked about it. One thing I did not prepare, though, I'd have to find it, not prepare a photo for Edward Scissorhands, but I'll have to go back to the finale here, see if I can find it. Come on. Here we go. All right. Which photo should I use, guys? Come on.
We can't tell.
All right.
Yeah, how do
we know? Yeah, exactly.
Come up with something. So Edward Scissorhands, I got a photo. Okay, so it's Forrest Gump versus Edward Scissorhands. It's between the two. Let's see who gets to vote first. And it is Davy Joe.
Really hard for me. I like Edward Scissorhands quite a bit. I'm gonna give the nod to Forrest Gump, but it's close.
Okay, and stand by because I'm not ready to cut to J Money because I'm doing some photo work.
Voting for
and stand by you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm voting for Edward Scissorhands. But the thing is, it's not like I think that it's necessarily a superior movie. I guess in a lot of ways I would put them in kind of the same level, in the sense that I like Edward Scissorhands more, but I realize that it's actually a more faulty movie and really not nearly as tight or kind of well crafted as Forrest Gump. But I like Forrest Gump less. So unfortunately, Edward Scissorhands is going to win out in this little internal fight for me personally.
Yeah, and you like the looseness of Edward Scissorhands. I mean, its faults are charming to some degree.
I suppose so. I mean, I think that it has enough other things I like about it that I guess I'll just give it a pass. I mean, in a sense, it's a guilty pleasure. And I also would say, and we've used this term a couple times tonight, for instance, I could see why Forrest Gump might be considered a guilty pleasure for some people as well. I could see why, The Girl on the Train could be considered a guilty pleasure for certain people as well. I mean,
I cannot see that. I can't see that. I don't.
Well, certainly there were plenty of people in the audience that I was with that really liked it quite a bit. So.
I mean, and some people in the audience liked 50 Shades of Grey when I saw it there, but that doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all kind of rolled into one giant S sandwich.
Hot Pursuit, there were people dying of laughter in the theater when I was there.
You can't judge it on an audience.
No, but I think the big takeaway, especially from this conversation, is certain movies just hit for certain people in certain ways.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Here we are.
No, it's true, but I mean, obviously, Forrest Gump hit for a lot more people than certainly Girl on a Train, although it did well at the box office, Girl on a Train, but certainly Hot Pursuit. Forrest Gump. Can we all say Forrest Gump is a better film than Hot Pursuit? Can we agree at least on that, J Money?
Yeah, that is definitely true. Yeah.
Davey, I know you're on the fence on this one, but
Hot Pursuit was. Dude, I'll tell you what though. The thing about Hot Pursuit is it stuck with me. That movie sucks.
It sticks with you because how bad it is. Yeah, that's. All right, so it's yeah. I mean, we one thing about Edward Scissorhands though, J Money. I had a train of thought. In the 1990 show and review, you actually listed it as should have been nominated for Best Original Screenplay in that category. That was your choice.
Was that being serious?
Yeah, you're being serious.
I don't know how sober I was at the point that we talked about it. Well, I might not have been that serious. I think that I was kind of
pretty late in the night. So,
although 1990, was kind of a rough year. It was kind of a loose year. There were some really good movies and there were some really terrible movies. So.
So I guess you don't need to watch our 1990 review show. J Money just summed it all up for you. No, he really did. We talked about a lot more interesting things, but I also awarded Edward Scissorhands as the best production design of 1990. I would have given it the Oscar.
Certainly, yeah. I mean,
All right.
that's what the movie is. It's all mood and production design. I mean, that's what I'm responding to ultimately.
And I like Edward Scissorhands a lot, and liked it. You know, we saw it in an outdoor screening in last June in Santa Monica, and so these guys were put to it, and it was unanimous this vote, and it's the #1 seed. It's hard to bring down. So, J Money, you would have been the first person to vote against Forrest Gump in this matchup, but. I was worried. Forrest Gump, I think, is a very beatable 1 seed as far as 1 seeds go.
Yeah.
I mean, not because it should be, because it is one of my favorite films of the '90s. But I think a lesser film. I have a sense a lesser film is going to bring it down at some point. But it made it pass through Edward Scissorhands.
You know, it's like Chicken Soup for America. It's the kind of thing where I think that there's a lot of people that really enjoy it, and it has a certain time and place for everybody. And you can't really fault it for what it is. I mean, it's a solid working, component of life. This movie.
A solid working component of life.
And I identify with it because it's about a guy that has no heart, and he likes stabbing people with his fingers, and that just kind of speaks to me in my demographic. So
it's kind of like Friday the 13th, right?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Which, when I watched it as a kid, I thought that's my role model. That's what I'm shooting for.
Well, here's what the audience has to say. You guys hear that?
Yeah. I did. Who was that?
Oh, you'll never know. I got plenty of those coming your way. It doesn't look like J Money heard it, and that he was the main audience. But regardless, just shaking his head. No. All right, Forrest Gump won. Oh, I know what I was looking for here. I was looking for another Forrest Gump photo that I forgot to show. I showed the kids one again, but this is another good scene here from the winning film of the evening. Yeah. You didn't feel anything with this from this scene, J Money?
It's not that I didn't feel anything. It's just that I feel like the entire construct is so contrived, and his character is contrived, and it's okay.
I mean, I feel like it's a fable or an allegory. I mean, do you understand my Huck Finn and Tom Jones?
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. It's just that for me, it's not landing in that same way. So
do you? I mean, Huck Finn is also contrived, don't you think?
Yeah, of course it is.
In that same way. I mean, it's a masterpiece of American literature, but I think it's similar.
Sure, of course. It's allegorical for a specific reason, and it's not really a believable character for a specific reason, and it's got a point to make, and so does this movie, and that's totally fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're the same thing, There's a difference.
Right.
Yeah, so.
All right, so, we've had a very long discussion about Forrest Gump, and it went a little better than I thought it would. And I want to thank the viewers for sticking with us tonight. Yeah, guys. And don't forget to subscribe. If you like our classic... What?
How many do we got right now? How many do we have?
I'm not going to reveal that on air. I'll tell you afterwards.
Well, I will make sure, if you're watching right now, please be subscribed.
Yeah, we'll send each of you guys a personalized note from JB. He will sign it himself and write it stationary that he has made himself.
I will go on a date with everyone that subscribes tonight.
Well, that is, I don't know if you want to commit to. Yeah, okay, that's great. JB will go on a date with everyone that subscribes tonight. Let's go all in on this.
I'm fine with that.
And Davy Joe will give $5 to anyone that subscribes tonight.
Yeah, Davy Joe's rich.
As you can tell.
He's a lawyer, yeah. Right. Wow. The banter goes on. All right. So we got to stop because we got a sound off coming up. Our next classic, which is on November 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, is a 3+ hour movie with 24 leading characters, if you can believe that. It's coming up November. Next up in about 7 minutes is our sound off, which I'm going to have a second run. I'm going to do my top 5 murder mystery films, and Davey, I think, is going to have a diatribe of some kind. So we'll see what happens at the sound off freeform segment coming up next. Let's see if when I hit stop broadcast, if it actually stops or if it waits 10 seconds or 30. Ready? Here we go.
Here we go.
5,